Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news discussion and, of course, a lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Evgeni.
Hi, my name is Trell.
Okay.
Also, it's cold in my house.
Evidently. Also joining me is Grace.
Hello, I am the next avatar on our panel of avatars.
Which is?
And
Patji.
Great.
Damn it, that's the one I was going to go for.
Also joining me is Ben.
Hi, I am the avatar of the one from the Pure Lake who's like jealous of his brother or something. I don't know.
I don't know. No, we're already done.
Okay.
You're off the podcast.
all right, I would like to have a formal complaint here. So, I tried to set this up smoothly for you, so you can win at this game. And so, like when Grace had a moment of silence, I was like, I interjected Aang a little bit to direct her to the last air bender. And you didn't take the bait. What the hell, man?
I'm sorry, you said Aang, and I'm like, I don't remember. There's no Aang in the Cosmere. I'm like, I'm even rewatching The Last Airbender right now on Netflix. Oh, it's on Netflix. Didn't realize. And it just didn't clock with me.
See, Evgeni, you made the outline this time, and now you can be just disappointed at how we don't go in the order of the outline, and we just meander. And host troubles. Trust me, I know more deeply than you could possibly understand.
I am perpetually disappointed by everyone all time. You're driving me to drinking.
Oh my god.
All right. And I am Chaos. And, you know, Ben, there's another potential avatar we could just talk with. The Sandlord. Come on.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But as the data shows on our analytics for the White Sand episodes, not many people watch that episode.
We have 100 views of our podcast. It's great.
Oh, man. When it's a day and it doesn't even crack 500, oh, that's bad on YouTube. That's so bad. I said Volume 3 actually pretty all right, and maybe you'll enjoy the salt that we have of nitpicking. It's fun. Grace enjoys them.
Yes, I do.
It wasn't even that much salt.
That's true, but there was no ceiling fan or boombox this time.
Not a lot of salt, but a whole lot of sand.
White salt. Not that exciting of a story comparatively.
My other name.
You're welcome, Grace.
Yeah, Grace.
So, we didn't talk in depth on the White Sand episode about autonomy and what autonomy's doing. And so, we really want to go in depth on autonomy and her avatars because, let me tell you, autonomy is way weirder than maybe any shard that we have, I would say. It is
also Brandon's favorite shard.
Yeah, I mean, White Sand was his first novel, and so he's probably been excited about the mythology on this world for an extremely long time. So, let's get into autonomy. Don't make that weird.
Go. I thought about that.
We knew of Bavadin's name all the way back from... I was going to say Oathbringer, and it's just like every Stormlight book because we've just been talking about Oathbringer so much. It's Oathbringer. But yeah, we got it in the Way of Kings letter with Race and Bavadin, and we knew that Bavadin was on Taldain. We knew that.
Yes. We knew that Hoid had a grudge against Reyes and Bavadin.
Yep.
So we've kind of been thinking about Girl Bav as an antagonistic character,
right?
For a while.
Spoiler alert: Hoid was the villain all along, and Race and Bavadin did nothing wrong. Plot twist.
Hashtag.
Look, passion's good, y'all. So we learned of the intent of Bavadin's shard, and its autonomy, as we're talking about. And we learned that just in 2015, so pretty new shard intent. all things considered, compared with the many that we have accrued since 2010.
And I think that's the newest one we know of, other than
For sure.
Ambition.
Oh yeah, Ambition's the newest one that we have for sure.
Yeah.
We talked about Brandon may have revealed a shard ingenuity, but then let's just say he did not confirm that to my face. So anyone can guess, but we did an episode on that a while ago. Autonomy, that's one of our newest shards that we got an intent for. So that's we finally got that named, and that's really cool. And so, Evgeni, tell us some about Autonomy and Bavadin.
I'll tell you. Obviously, Shard of Adonalsium. I don't know whether we know that she was one of the original 16, but we kind of assume so. Especially with the connection with Raze and how Hoy doesn't like both of them.
If you're mentioning Aona and Sky, then race Bavadin in that 2010 Way of King's letter.
Yeah. It's kind of putting it in some context.
Yeah.
We know that she was at least at one point invested in Taldain. We don't know whether that is still the case. And one of the things we're going to talk about later in the episode is the idea of Shard investing in a planet, and why it can be weird to talk about. Like, it can be weird to try to figure out whether she is still there.
Yeah.
Because like shards are in the spiritual realm, and so what does it mean to be here or there?
What does location mean in the spiritual realm? Yeah.
It's a bit of a can of worms.
Yeah.
We know that at some point in the history of the planet, Bavadin or Autonomy adopted a policy of isolationism.
Yep.
On Taldain. And that happened sometime either during or after Chris left the planet. And so it's difficult for her, it's difficult for Chris to get back and to send agents and to like continue her research into realmatics, because either Bavadin is sitting on the planet and not letting anyone back in, or has some measures in place that prevent that from happening.
Yep.
And this is very much in line with what we presume the intent of autonomy means, right? To be autonomous, to be independent, to be alone, things like that.
Yep. We have this very cool thing about Bavadin in that she has entire pantheons where all of the gods in that pantheon are actually her.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't really make sense to refer to Bavadin as male or female because there's so many different possibilities.
Normally, when you have a story like when we have in the Stormlight Archive, where they're like, 3 once ruled, but now the Broken One reigns, you're like, oh, those 3 are 3 different gods. But as soon as Bavadin gets involved, it can be like, oh, there's 20 gods, and every one of those gods
is Bavadin.
Like, yeah. Great.
Okay. Does anyone else almost get like Kelsier vibes from Bavadin with the whole Hoy doesn't like her creating religions? It's just a thing I thought of.
I feel like they'd get on swimmingly if they had them there.
That's
He
terrifying.
might not immediately punch her.
Huh.
Kelsier does like freedom.
No,
I don't have an immediate way of disagreeing with this.
This is kind of actually a really scary thought, actually, given what we'll talk about with Trell. But we have this idea that Bavadin has been splitting themselves into different.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There is this idea in a word of avatar that we got in the Oathbringer letter, which suggests that autonomy is extremely strange. This is the second letter in Oathbringer, and it is by far the weirdest one we have seen. So there's some idea of making new
Avatars.
Yeah, I was gonna say personas because that letter specifically talks about a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there. So it seems to be like these avatars are still connected.
Yeah.
Capital C, probably. Presumably. But they wouldn't. But there is some difference. Like, that letter always talks about we together, our domains.
Do we just want to read that? It's not a very long letter.
We should just read that.
So I'm going to read the second letter in Oathbringer from one of Autonomy's avatars.
And we do have confirmation that it is Autonomy, by the way. That I got that. So yeah.
Sephandrius, bearer of the first oh my god.
Really, Ben? Out of all the words, you trip on gem?
Right. Let's try this. Oh my god, I'm already red. Right, okay. Let's try this again.
Should this be an outtake or should this be in the actual episode? I don't even know if I want to make a cut on this. Like this is quality entertainment here.
I'm quite happy for this to be an outtake.
I'm sure you would be.
Okay, right. Sephandrius, bearer of the first gem, you must know better than to approach us by relying upon presumption of past relationship. You have spoken to one who cannot respond. We, instead, will take your communication to us, though we know not how you located us upon this world. We are intrigued, for we thought it well hidden, insignificant among our many realms. As the waves of the sea must continue to surge, so must our will continue resolute, alone. Did you expect anything else from us? We need not suffer the interference of another. Raze is contained, and we care not for his prison. Indeed, we admire his initiative. Perhaps if you had approached the correct one of us with your plea, it would have found favorable audience. But we stand in the sea, pleased with our domains. Leave us alone. We also instruct that you should not return to Obradai. We have claimed that world, and a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there. She is young yet, and as precaution, she will be instilled with an intense and overpowering dislike of you. This is all we will say in this time. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. Only in this will you earn our respect.
God, Oathbringer letters are like the most hype thing. Every Stormlight book, I'm like, oh man, what are we gonna get? And we got 3 shards. Every time reading all these, so good.
So I do wonder if Trend is going to continue in like Stormlight 4 and beyond, where it's just Hoyd communicating with people around the Cosmere.
Yeah.
I always think that it's that book 4 is going to be Hoyd again, and then book 5 is going to be Frost again. And so you needed book 3 to be a weird one because 5's not divisible by 2.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Anyway, this one is crazy here.
Yeah.
Let's recap the points. Hoyd has sent the letter to one who cannot respond. One avatar, presumably.
Yep.
And another one of either another avatar or Bavadin herself, as we instead will take this communication to us.
I don't think it's proper to say that any one of these is not Bavadin. Like, that's the weird thing. Like, I think they're all kind of Bavadin, and it's just kind of weird.
I think they're all kind of Autonomy.
Yeah.
I think Bavadin is in.
I don't know if I agree, because like with we, it's like I always got the impression that Bavadin is splitting herself and like putting different aspects of herself into different things, and it's all like flavors. Like, you are made up of different things, and if you like accentuated one part of yourself, and that would be like a different flavor of what you are. And so Bavadin's been like doing that and like imbuing investiture with like a specific facet. I don't know. It's weird. We really don't know how this works at all. But I just think like we instead will take your communication to us. I don't know. I think these are all referring to Bavadin, but it's that Bavadin is weird and maybe is doing something to herself.
I think that the writer of this letter is an avatar. I don't even know if a Bavadin still exists.
Right, that's the thing. I don't think there is maybe a original Bavadin anymore. Like there could just be like a bunch of these avatars, and those avatars are making other avatars, and they're all like connecting into this hive mind that can somewhat communicate.
I see where you are going with this, but I don't know if I agree.
What do you think, Grace?
So I have an idea, sort of taking that. You have spoken to one who cannot respond. That combined with the relying on presumption of past relationships almost makes me wonder if the one who cannot respond is kind of that original personality of Bavadin.
Ooh, that is
interesting. I like that.
And like very interesting.
Hoyd's like hunting the first one, and like that one's broken or something, and now it's like, this new
Hoyd
object.
Is hunting this person that he knew, and this avatar is coming in and saying that person no longer exists. We are going to take the communication that you're trying to send to Autonomy.
I really like that. I like that.
So, because when you first said that, I was thinking, because maybe Bavadin's still on like Taldain and the whole isolationist thing, so like they cannot respond because they're like stonewall against the world. But maybe they just don't exist. Yeah.
My interpretation of one cannot respond has always been that this is a very like nascent, very young avatar, but combined with the line, you must know better than to approach us by relying upon presumptions of past relationship.
Does seem older than newer, right?
Yeah.
Grace,
so that is. It's either that, I think, or just for the sake of completeness, it's if avatars can be or were already existing beings that Autonomy somehow
co-opts,
not corrupts, but co-opts. Yeah. Hoyd was trying to address somebody who was then co-opted by Autonomy. And that somebody is no longer there.
Yeah.
I like that as well, because we really don't know if these beings are co-opted, highly invested things that Autonomy's dumping a bunch of investiture into a thing that already exists, or if Autonomy's like breaking something apart. The mechanics of this are very weird. So I think that's possible as well. Grace, I do really like your idea that Hoyd's going after like, hey, remember me, Bavadin? And I personally think Bavadin is just not in the same form that she was before. That like like she's remade herself into something new, this hive-mindy thing, and there is no single Bavadin anymore.
I could see that happening, yeah. I would be a little upset if we never got to see like the Bavadin, but maybe that's what Dragonsteel was for.
Well, we'll talk about Taldain specifically, but we have no idea when these like avatars and things started forming, right? Like we don't know what the status of Bavadin and Autonomy is at any given point in time, right? I mean, White Sands early. So
the earliest.
Yeah, probably. Well, aside from Dragonsteel, right? So we don't know. But there is a lot of interesting things that does sort of evoke Autonomy's intent. So must or will continue resolute alone. So I would guess that Autonomy does not like interference. Likes
which makes
their
sense.
own thing. We need not suffer the interference of another. Does make sense with the intent Autonomy doesn't really like that of other shards messing around.
It's a combination of like, I think there's a combination of things there. There's not only that, but there's also, I think she might really believe in that whole, the shards had an agreement.
The agreement, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go on their own way.
Yep.
Speaking of that autonomy intent, so just circling back onto the co-opting of large chunks of investiture and worlds, the reason we think there's a possibility that avatars aren't just something newly created, there's something co-opted, is Patji is one of these avatars, but apparently Patji existed, the entity existed before Autonomy showed up. So it's kind of this weird, what is an avatar? She turns up, she dumps a load of investiture on something that already exists, it becomes an avatar, or she comes in, lays a investiture egg that grows into an avatar.
Sure. Right, yeah.
Yeah. It's because then the whole getting something that's kind of already exists and then kind of almost shackling it to your intent doesn't seem very autonomous. But it's a weird, that's a weird one to me.
Yeah.
I guess you could.
This touches on a very long and very interesting and very complicated word of Brandon.
The big one. The really, really long Reddit thread.
It's two of them. Yeah, it's two big ones. One of them is the original London signing where Brandon's like, Patji's a shard. out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was so out of nowhere.
And then the follow-up on Reddit where people try to understand what on earth he meant by that.
This is from our original Patji episode, Ben, where I remember it was just the two of us, and Brandon was making this. He was posting this as we were doing that episode, and we recorded another one, and that episode was way too long.
Afterwards, yeah.
Yeah. That was.
Oh, I remember that. It was a good day.
That was a good day. I'm looking at this and I'm disagreeing that necessarily the Patji being existed prior. I don't know if that's... I don't think that is accurate with weird. What Brandon says.
It's weird is pretty much the only thing we can agree on.
Yeah.
It is weird,
like,
yes.
I'm not saying for certain that Patji definitely existed before.
You said it in a very authoritative manner.
Because he said the entity of Patji existed, but we don't know what that means. So I'm like, does just that mean there's like I don't know what the cognitive realm on Shadows of Self, not Shadows of Self, Shadows in Forest of Self, that one. I don't know. Whatever the cognitive realm
of Hell.
That's the one. Whatever the planet that is.
Threnody.
That's the one. Threnody. I don't know what the cognitive realm of Threnody looks like, but let's pretend it's beads. I don't know if the entity of Patji existed meant there's just like a bead with the island on it. And
yeah, because everything existed.
Exactly.
Also,
so it's like,
that's a different planet.
I know. I'm just using it as an example. But like, oh wait, yeah, that is a different planet, isn't it? That's not even the right planet.
You want First of the Sun.
That's the one. So yeah, look, Patji's really hard, guys.
How have I had 5 hours of sleep and you're the crazy one on this episode?
I have no idea what's going on with me right now. My brain is just not up to standard.
I think let's wait on Patji a bit. Let's do the very quick synopsis in that Patji is a being and autonomy is involved and not another shard. How about that?
That is accurate.
Yeah.
Because Brandon's like, don't look for another shard for origins of this. So let's leave it at that, and that is an avatar as best as we know. So we'll keep it there very briefly. Do we have anything else about on the letter that we want to talk about? Because there really is so much we can discuss on the letter.
There is. We could be here all day.
We literally could be here all day talking about the letter. Yeah.
Probably not terribly relevant stuff. Like we can talk about Obradai, but I don't think that matters right now.
Yeah.
How about we talk about something slightly simpler and we just talk about Taldain? Okay. And
Nice and easy peasy.
if you don't remember what Taldain is, because ultimately probably not many people have read the graphic novels, Taldain is a planet that is a binary star system, and Taldain is tidally locked. And so there's one side that's permanently daytime, which is called Dayside, and then there's a smaller star that has a particulate ring around it that just gives a lot less light, and so that side is dark side. It's not permanently daytime there, but
I
tidally locked to both, and
What?
don't think about that too much. Fine. Anytime any astrophysicists out there, just put magic in there and it works. It's fine.
well, I mean,
the two stars in the planet, they just move together.
They're just all one. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I seem to recall something about the smaller star emitting large amounts of UV radiation. Is that a fact, or is that something somebody said at some point?
I believe that's why there's just all the plants on the dark side are black and not dead, so that they can because the black absorbs more of the infrared radiation.
I seem
Is
to
it just
recall
more
this too,
UV?
but I don't know
Something like
where. So
I also remember this.
So if we all think that we remember it, I think that means we're not going insane. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't think any time that we've all remembered a thing that we've actually been wrong. But what happens on Dayside, at least, which was the side we've seen, is that the sun itself invests the sand.
Probably.
Regardless, the sunlight provides investiture in some variety that
Yeah.
Charges the sun.
The reason we are mostly confident in this is because there is a word of Brandon that somebody asks, hey, if I'm on a different planet, but I can still see the bigger one of Taldain's stars, do I still get the investiture? And Brandon confirms that yes. And so it's probably not something weird with the star and the atmosphere and the air. It's probably just the star emitting.
Right. Yeah. Right. There was a word of Brandon that Bavadin was like in the sky or something.
Isn't she in the star? Is the star?
Not confirmed.
Okay.
But considering that the starlight appears to be what carries the investiture, that's reasonable. But also, like, we could be looking at a permanent perpendicularity inside like the core of the star, right? You can have some kind of delivery vehicle that way.
Yeah.
So it's uncertain.
It's ultraviolet light that shines through the ring. I just read this on. It's in the Arcanum Amalgam essay. I thought it would be.
Oh,
and there's a wob that the plants feed on UV.
Okay, great. Cool. It was in the essay. It wasn't a wob. Great.
Oh, and then it's technically it's a lichen that's that grows on the sand that absorbs the investiture.
Yep.
Giving water to this tiny plant. Yeah.
So the one that what I'm thinking of, Brandon says, he says that the shard is the Sand Lord, but the shard actually kind of resides in the atmosphere and stuff like that.
And stuff like that.
Excellent.
And I mean, there is, and then he goes on to say that we brought out the shard a bit more in the graphic novels, which we do because there are cloud faces in White Sand, and that is meant to be autonomy stuff, I guess.
The way I can see this working is if Taldain is a planet where we both have, like, it is both kind of the primary residence for autonomy, at least at the time, which explains the shard is in the atmosphere type of thing, and also has an avatar, at least one, in the form of the Sand Lord. And so the Sand Lord is the shard in the same way that Patji is the shard, right?
Right.
But it's also a separate entity, even if they are deeply, deeply connected.
I mean, I could only assume that there are persona, like if there's entire pantheons, right? Like, where could the pantheons be?
I mean, there's one on the first of the sun.
Well, hey, so I have a few Taldain questions for y'all.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, how late do we think White Sand is in the timeline? In other words, how much of Taldain weirdness is Autonomy or Adonalsium? That's what I'm getting at.
Ooh.
What do you mean by weirdness?
Because there's multiple weird things.
Well, we referred to the
Taldain.
astrophysics being weird. So, like, how much influence did Bavadin do there? Or how much, like, did she invest the star? How did that work? Like, is that in...
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I think it's very difficult because
It's really hard.
it's really difficult because I kind of want to say the astrophysics stuff was Adonalsium.
Almost had it.
You almost had it.
I think the astrophysics stuff was Adonalsium because it wouldn't be the first time he's done some weird astrophysics stuff.
Cough, Roshar, yeah.
Mental.
By design. By design.
Adonalsium was playing Solar System Simulator.
Really liked the
Messing around
number of
with
10
ideas.
that day.
Yeah. By the way, as someone who's like tried to recreate the Rosharan system in Universe Simulator, it's a nightmare. It is an absolute. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work?
No, it
Because
doesn't.
there's too much gravity?
Because 10 gas giants, and also the planets are really close together, and the moons are mental. It's like the 3 interior planets are way too close together to be stable with 10 gas giants. The moons are just irrelevant.
I mean, how
screw
much
themselves.
do you think that the star system maps are relative distance accurate?
They have to be livable. Ashen has to be livable. So it has
true.
to be in the Goldilocks zone. Roshar has to be in the Goldilocks zone, and then Braze needs to be a little bit out of the Goldilocks.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like,
yeah, that's pretty good. Fine, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Like, the gas giants don't need to be close, at least. But anyway.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, we're back to Taldain. So I think the astrophysics stuff might have been Adonalsium. But then I think all of the sand stuff and the faces in the sky, that's all Autonomy. That's all Bavadin. She came in, she was like,
So that
I'm gonna watch these
investiture,
guys.
the light
Yeah.
being invested, that's
Yeah.
Autonomy.
I think that's Autonomy.
I can accept that. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I don't-
I'm
I don't
on
have-
this one.
I don't have particularly strong feelings about that distinction.
I one of our YouTube comments upon us talking about Autonomy light had a great comment on what to call that. Auto light. Easy. Done. Done. So I wanted to bring that up.
Cool.
So do you think Autonomy... It's just so weird. Why am I like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna invest the star. What? Why? Why? This doesn't
Probably the
seem an efficient
isolationist
use
thing.
of your power at all.
It's like I'm gonna go hide. Where should I hide? Which is really hard to get to. I'm not gonna like hide on a planet. Planets are pretty easy to get to. If I just hide on a star, who's gonna come to a star? Like, it's a pretty good hiding place if you're gonna hide anywhere.
I am not going to try to ascribe motive to Autonomy, like early Autonomy.
It's really hard.
We just don't know enough about their motivations at that time. They could have been trying to hide in the star. They could have thought that it's a good idea to use light as a delivery system for investiture in a kind of like equal way, as long as you're not on dark side. They could have liked the idea. They could have liked the added stability of the star when compared to a planet, because anything can happen to the planet, but the star is relatively safe unless a wandering black hole shows up or something.
I was just thinking this point. It's like when you're autonomy. What's more autonomous than a star? No one's going to tell a star what to do.
Yeah. What's more autonomous and alone in the galaxy than a star system with 2 stars? Brilliant. Than one.
Yeah.
So, do we think? So, going off with what we said before. So we think that there is some autonomy, and the Sandlord is an avatar. So we think that that is an avatar at this stage.
I am leaning in that direction.
Okay.
I'm not convinced, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Sandlord was like Autonomy Bavadin, experimenting with what would eventually become the avatar thing that she's doing nowadays.
Yeah, I think the Sandlord is an avatar. I mean, I think that with avatars, you're not going to figure out how to do it overnight, and there were early experimentations.
There would have to be, surely.
Yeah.
This seems like a very specific shardic construct that a shard would really need to practice and get very good at the power in doing, right?
Yeah, and I can see the Sandlord being one of those early experimentations. I mean, I don't necessarily think it makes the Sandlord less of an avatar, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like at that stage, it's like, how do you define what is an avatar?
It could be one of those things where even at this point in the Cosmere, like the modern day, avatar is still a bit not really well defined, like sliver.
Yes, a slither. Yes.
Good old
yes, the
slithers.
slithers of Adonalsium.
And
Those
stuff
are on
like that.
Patji, actually. The slithers of Adonalsium.
Here is an interesting segment from that long word of Brandon that we're going to get to eventually.
Yes. So this is the long word of Brandon on Reddit that was referring to Patji and autonomy.
And everything, really.
And everything.
At the very end, Brandon says, because I was asking something about, hey, how much are you willing to talk about autonomy? Should we even bother asking you? And he says, let's at least let White Sand finish first. Take a note, listeners. It's finished, so we can bother Blandon.
This isn't the big long one.
It is. It's just the very end. Oh, okay. No, not that one. Now, okay.
That's two.
Another Reddit.
Yeah. Sorry. This is a different Reddit word of Brandon that was very long that we learned about the Bavadin personas in the first place.
Yeah. So let's at least let White Sand finish first. You will find her in there, though her touch on the story directly is light. Light, you said. Right?
Get it? It's a pun.
She prefers to allow her personas to become the focus of attention.
Okay, that's interesting.
That is interesting, and it's also, to an extent, an argument that it is the Sandlord is a persona of autonomy. And if we kind of equate personas with avatars, even though they might not be a perfect overlap, then we have that.
And then, like, autonomy herself, Bavadin herself is, like, in the atmosphere observing with the cloud faces, I guess.
Yes.
I guess.
And then this kind of goes against our idea earlier that, like, Bavadin, that they're all kind of Bavadin, and she's kind of...
It could be weird once there's more planets involved. Like, if Bavadin went to Taldain first and experimented, maybe you have more control over things. But if you're a shard and you invest on a planet, that gets difficult to move off that planet. And so that there could be some costs to what Bavadin's doing if she tries to do that across other systems and stuff. There's one other Taldain thing that we got to talk about, I think, before we talk about Patji, maybe. And that's Trell. Take a drink, Evgeni. Yeah, because so, friends, listeners, there is just a random dude in White Sand Volume 2, a craftsman named Trell.
And why is this important?
Because Trell is a huge deal in Mistborn Era 2 and Trell is a mythological figure of classical Scadrial, of the classical era of Scadrial. How that works is weird, but it occurs to me that can I just read Sazed talking about Trelligism really quick? So Sazed's blabbing, and he says, it's called Trelligism after the god Trell. Trell was worshipped by a group known as the Nelazon, a people who lived far to the north. In their land, the day and night cycle was very odd. During some months of the year, it was dark most of the day. During the summer, however, it only grew dark for a few hours at a time. The Nelazon believed that there was beauty in darkness and that the daylight was more profane. They saw the stars as 1,000 eyes of Trell watching them. The sun was the single jealous eye of Trell's brother, Nalt. Since Nalt only had one eye, he made it blaze brightly to outshine his brother. The Nelazon, however, were not impressed and preferred to worship the quiet Trell who watched over them even when Nalt obscured the sky. And the Nelazon mapped out the entire night sky, which is how Sazed could replace where Scadrial was correctly. But just reading the part was like, the day and night cycle were very odd.
So, in all fairness, this is Scadrial. The final empire was like way up north. If you go even further north, you're going in like North Pole region.
Yeah.
And so you would expect a weird day-night cycle. Yeah. But it is interesting. There's a parallel here.
It's interesting for several reasons, because we don't really know how old any of the classical Scadrian religions are, because Scadrial was created. It was not like many other places. Scadrial's the outlier that the shards literally created the entire place. So presumably Taldain, Autonomy went there. Maybe there were people. And like Roshar, there were beings there, right? Not people on Roshar specifically. But, how there's this religion that refers to Trell, and presumably the craftsman Trell existed first, right?
Yeah.
In the timeline. I mean, it's hard to say when Scadrial was created, but that's really weird.
It's very weird, but I'm with you. I believe that White Sand with Trell happened before Scadrial with Trell happened.
I mean, the timeline's weird because you get 1,000 years of Lord Ruler, and then who knows how much time happened from Scadrial's creation to Alendi's time, but the well was used multiple times. So you have to have a few cycles of it.
At least a few thousand years.
So, really hard to say properly. But all I know is there's a dude named Trell that was in the prose that Brandon's like, you know what, in the graphic novel where we're making the Shard more obvious, and Era 2 has already come out, you know what? I'm still going to have that dude named Trell.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. That's super weird.
It is.
I think that maybe some group of Taldaini people, maybe the craftsman Trell himself, I don't know. I think the Nelazon and the story Sazed is telling is a warped representation of Taldain itself. And so they're like, the day and night cycle was odd, but then that just got warped as that got passed down through the generations and thousands of years not being on Taldain anymore. It's like, they were in the North Pole. That's the only thing that makes sense, right? But it was actually...
It could be those two things smushed together. It could be a combination of
sure
myths from Taldain, and also they lived in a polar region, so
absolutely religions merge together and take things from other things all the time. Easter,
So, so you think the Nelazon religion was created in part by world hoppers from Taldain?
Some part of that mythology, I think, did come from Taldain, specifically, yeah.
There is also, in White Sand, there's a bit where Kenton talks about the Kirene, the Curtian religion, the Sand Lord religion.
Yes.
And he says that Curtians believe that the sand is the Sand Lord's body and the sun is his eye. And then he goes on to talk about
okay. Yeah.
which is mighty suspicious, considering the 1,000 eyes of Trell and the single bright burning eye of Naut.
I really believe that very much could be referring to Taldain. And like, Brandon knows we're not dumb. And like, in Elantris, he had a mural of Shadesmar in it. That's just a thing. Brandon wrote White Sand before, and he could be like, haha, the Nelazon. He already wrote White Sand, the rewrite with Trell there. I don't know why it's a craftsman, but he had that place written.
It's on purpose. It's not a inconsequential detail.
I don't think that's an inconsequential detail.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that it's probably related to Taldain, but why Trell? Why this random craftsman guy?
Well, that I haven't figured that part out, Grace.
That's what's throwing me off.
Evgeni, what do you think?
If it was only, and there's also the dual star thing, right? So on Taldain you have the bright star and the dark star, effectively, in Trellogism you have the 1,000 eyes of Trell, which are kind of dim, like they're the stars, and so the darkness, and then the single bright burning eye. And so if we didn't have this many parallels, maybe I could have because like the Shash thing, right? There's a Shash letter in Warbreaker, there's a Shash glyph on Roshar, and that's a coincidence.
There's an Ati Aeon, there's Ati the person. Those are not related.
Yeah, sometimes there are coincidences in the Cosmere, it's fine, but when there are so many, and
not only so many, but there's just this mysterious force attacking Scadrial. So there's this whole other aspect. This would be strange enough if we didn't have Era 2, I would say. Right?
Yeah.
And be like, oh, that's kind of weird. But the fact that we're talking about Trell is because obviously when you read Era 2, Trell matters a lot. And then it's not Trelligism anymore, it's Trellism. And
did I say Trellism, or have we adopted that?
No, they say Trellism. I think.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain they say Trellism. They certainly never use Trelligism.
Yes.
There. But so what's happening in Era 2? Well, first of all,
they do say that.
There's tons of weird things with Miles. There's Palm, who had a hemalurgic spike from something that Sazed does not know about. So like that kind of indicates some other shard.
And I think we actually know that it's a shard that
we have seen.
We know of.
It's a shard that we have seen. So we know that it's a shard, and we know that we are aware of that shard.
So it's not like one of the other shards that we've never heard of. So then, in Bands of Mourning, we get this vision where Wax was dead, and there's just like this red mist attacking Scadrial, and I think that's more metaphorical, but basically Harmony's spending most of his effort dealing with that and the stuff that's happening on a wide scale. And it's kind of a big deal. And given that Trell is related to the Set, and the Set have these weird faceless immortals that
red eyes,
that have red eyes and red mist, and it's really weird and suspicious that it's of Trell. And And if you think about avatars, you're like, what if Trell's just an avatar of Autonomy? And then you're like, yeah, that seems pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
It is worth mentioning
Yes.
that red doesn't automatically mean Autonomy. It doesn't automatically mean odium.
No, it does not.
Trell, not Trell. Red as a color.
The color Trell.
I'm not pushing our agenda here, but the color Trell. The color red in the Cosmere is often associated with corruption of one sort or another.
Yep.
And we see this a lot in Stormlight, which is why a lot of people, I think, go to odium when we see red things, especially with the Fused, especially with the Everstorm, right? Gliss.
Yeah, I mean, the Thrill is red mist, and so that is... There is deepness with red.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that all redness in the... And some redness is obviously just coincidental, right? It's just red. But it doesn't mean that all red in the Cosmere is odium. And given the circumstantial evidence that we have on Scadrial, where Miles was big on the whole freedom and liberty thing.
So was
where
Palm.
Palm was extremely into autonomy. Someone else moves the slow man.
Wanted to free everyone from Harmony.
Yeah. Which makes sense for a Conjurer. Like I can see why a Conjurer would feel controlled by autonomy.
Harmony. It rhymes. It's fine. Yeah.
But also, like, you either have to have a different agenda or you have to be insane if you are trying to free, like, regular people who were not directly influenced by the Shard. There is the weird army of gold and red, I believe.
Yeah, we know nothing about that. Fun.
Which, unless that's referring to Navani and her gold and red wedding dress, we don't know much about.
Isn't there a high prince?
It is.
Whose colors is gold and red as well?
There is.
Yeah.
All
it is
red is of
consider.
odium. All red ever.
I will say it is really interesting that if we accept that red could be autonomy, it is now well established that gold is often odium.
Oh, God,
and so we might be looking at some form of alliance between odium and autonomy, assuming they both survive Book 5.
And Hoyd has a grudge against both of them. I think that's been a pretty common theory that they are working together in some respect.
Or at least have worked together in the past.
Have worked. Yeah. I mean...
And we know...
Go ahead.
And we know odium had help with his murdering. So he
we don't know that.
I believe it's in one of the wobs in
the
document.
The wob in there is, hey, it's mighty suspicious that odium managed to defeat 2 shards this one time, and also managed to kill this one other shard while his maybe wife was in the same planet system, presumably like watching over. And so Brandon noted that it's normally difficult to, like, it is unwise to go one-on-one against another shard unless you know you have an advantage of some sort.
Yep.
There is also the one that I was referring to was, did Bavadin in any way help odium splinter Dominion and Devotion? And Brandon went, and then Moradin 997 says, in any way? And Brandon said, yes, you could say that.
Everything's connected in the spiritual realm.
Exactly. In any way is...
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's worth keeping something like that on the radar, but it doesn't mean anything beyond that, I would say.
Here's the thing that's weird. Like, the whole letter with autonomy does not like interference. And so that makes things... It's not as clear as, oh yeah, these two shards are teaming up. Because Odium also wants to be the only shard left. So any sort of alliance is probably not just them teaming up and being besties wrecking things. Like, that's not what's happening.
Well, Odium, in Brandon's words, wants to be top dog. I don't think that means he needs to be the only one.
No, he told me long ago that he wants to be the only shard left. So it's also that he wants to be the top dog. He wants to be the ruler of the Cosmere, and he's going about that by destroying all the other shards.
Odium's playing Highlander and everyone.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, right, exactly. So there's multiple times where he's said this, but
I've always thought that if Odium were going to team up with a shard, it would make sense that he would choose someone who is willingly kind of splitting herself up already.
Yeah. Like making themselves.
Hey guys. I'll let you finish, Trace. I have a great theory.
I think that he probably thinks autonomy is not a threat to him because of that. I would not necessarily agree that if he is making that assumption, it is a good one. But I think I think he might be viewing her as a less of a threat because of it, and I don't think necessarily he should be.
Yeah, maybe this splitting makes it very hard for Autonomy to do a direct confrontation. Which does beg the question of why Autonomy's like, yeah, the place with a vessel with two shards, I'm going after them. Like, it does seem a little suspicious, because Odium would probably not want to do that. But are you guys ready for an amazing thought? Evgeni, do you know where I'm going with this?
No, but I know it's nowhere good.
3 of 16 ruled, but now the broken one reigns. Autonomy. Boom. Broken one.
All right, I'm gonna head out, guys.
All shards have invested on Roshar. Technically.
Cursed Wob.
The Cursed Wob, yes. I mean, I don't know what the broken one means, but I mean, Autonomy, like, I don't know.
We're pretty sure broken one means Odium.
Yeah, but we don't know what that means in the context of what Odium has done, but like, that is purely ignorance on our part, right?
Ray's last name was broken. I don't know. What about it?
Oh, Race, not Mraze?
I said Ray's.
Oh, I heard Mraze, but...
Well,
I'm sure you did.
Raze is Raze. Easy.
Let's steer back onto Scadrial.
Yeah.
See if there's anything else we need to talk about. Yeah, so there's a compelling argument, I think, to be made that if there is a shard meddling there, which I think we can agree that yeah. And if that's a shard that we know of, given the unknown metal spikes and the fact that this is a known shard, and so if we say, well, the shard from whose essence these spikes are created is also probably the one that's meddling. Like, otherwise it's a weird double switcheroo. Yeah. Then we are really limited to Autonomy and Odium. And given all the other circumstantial evidence, I think Autonomy makes a lot more sense.
And also
with Miles, with Bleeder.
There is passion, but like the Autonomy stuff, I think if you read closely is more obvious. Also, I don't think Odium could directly go in that fight. Like, maybe Odium helped Bavadin in some way? Maybe?
I mean, unless Stormlight 5 literally ends up with Odium free.
I am free! Ha!
Turns out the Well of Ascension foreshadowed Stormlight 5. Not the Hero of Ages.
Haha! There's a lot of difficulties with that being Odium, and there are other weirdness with Autonomy, but I'm very happy to say Autonomy is deeply related to Trell, and that is an avatar. I think that's pretty solid to me.
I think this is very compelling. Yeah.
I
So-
agree, yeah.
So here's my question. We have known that in Era 1, ye old wobs, ye old with an E, that's like, oh yeah, there's only 2 shards on Scadrial, right? And no splinters on Scadrial in Era 1. Now, what an avatar means in the context of sliver versus splinter, no clue. We have no idea. These words are losing more meaning as time goes along anyway. But it is weird if Autonomy had no effect on Scadrial. There's this mythological religion, but then this avatar came in later.
That has never been a huge issue for me. In my head, it is completely possible that the ancient followers of Trellogism just had maybe their religion was founded on a long lost ancient pieces of knowledge coming from Taldain or
Sure.
about Taldain.
Sure.
That have no real realmatic founding as far as Scadrial is concerned.
Sure.
And
right.
so centuries later, and this again refers to the long rooted wob that we may or may not get to eventually. Centuries later, Autonomy essentially searches or scans the Cosmere for concentrations of autonomous investiture. Because as I at least understand these things, while the shards themselves are infinite and they're all connected in the spiritual realm and they're all one, the vessel is not. And so if a vessel, let's say stationed in Taldain, wants to make use of compatible investiture on the other end of the Cosmere, they kind of need to either scan or send their mind there or project or in some other way become aware of that investiture. And so that's kind of how I've been thinking about avatars, where Autonomy is perhaps they have a permanent base somewhere, and that may be Taldain, it may be somewhere else at this point. And they just scan the Cosmere for chunk of autonomous investiture. And going back to Scadrial, maybe centuries after the Lord Ruler or in the period after the Final Empire, but before the books in Era 2, maybe Bavadin becomes aware of this chunk that is there on Scadrial and goes, okay, I will turn that into an avatar for whatever reasons. And in doing so, either actively shapes that avatar so that it thinks of itself as Trell, or something in the creation of the avatar makes an association between this newly formed being and the old religion. Maybe it serves Bavadin's purposes to co-opt this ancient belief so it has a better founding.
Maybe it's capital C connected to Taldain and Autonomy is connected to Taldain, and so it's just the spiritual connection there or some crap. I don't know. Sure.
That seems weird. I would say it's more intentional.
Sure.
Or Autonomy has some kind of little spies, and then she sends them to the planets, figure out what religion is the easiest for me to co-opt, and they're like, hey, this kind of fits your MO.
And the spy that went to Scadrial was a workman. And he was Trell. And he was like, whoa, guys, there's a religion here named after me already.
Sick.
Right. So my answer to this question goes into my crazy headcanon.
Okay.
Right.
Oh boy.
I mean,
I'm ready.
Who of you can remember what happens at the end of Well of Ascension Prime?
Oh, with endowment?
Oh.
Yes. At the end of Well of Ascension Prime, there isn't just one shard ghost, there's 4.
Yes, and one of them is endowment.
One of them is endowment. And I think that the reason for that I was never explained because it's a prime version.
No, not at all.
But I think in Brandon's head that there is a relationship between 4 shards that are pretty good. I'm going to say friends. Why not? I'm going to say 4 shards are pretty friendly with each other. And I'm going to say it's ruin, preservation, endowment, and possibly autonomy. And so all of them are kind of like friends. And they just go and pop in and visit each other every so often.
Yeah. Ruin and preservation, they're great friends.
Ruin and preservation are great friends. Like, they weren't always hateful, smashing against each other. They made a planet together.
Hashtag Ruin did nothing wrong. Ruin just wants things to end. Ruin doesn't hate that fact. It's just an inevitability. Okay.
And I've thought this for ages, and then it's been reinforced by the fact that apparently Ruin was really involved in the creation of Lightblood. So, yeah, I think... Yeah.
Ruinous Investiture was involved in a non-insignificant, non-trivial way in the creation of Nightblood.
The words matter, Ben.
I know. But anyway, that's my headcanon, and so I wouldn't put it beyond possibilities that like Bavadin just visited early Scadrial, was like, hey, what are you guys up to? Oh, it's a really cool planet you made. Mind if I start religion? And they're like, yeah, go on. I owe you a beer from back when we were humans. Go for it.
The interference thing, though, Ben, I
know, yeah, that's the wrinkle in my theory. That is,
and I mean, the vessels could have had some sort of relationship and friendship. That is perfectly possible. I accept that, and I think that is kind of cool if there were 4 mist spirits in that original draft before he changed the ending. I want to briefly read the line from the Taldain system essay.
Okay.
At the very end, which is autonomy's policy of isolationism in recent times, in direct contrast to her interference with other planets, I might add, has prevented travel to and from Taldain for many, many years, a fact of which I am all too aware. Now, I wanted to bring that up just because autonomy doesn't like interference, but I guess she likes interfering in other crap. And
that's exactly what that sounds like, yeah.
Now, my headcanon theory is that it's very simple that autonomy is afraid of harmony. Wouldn't you? This is a being that has 2 shards, and if you like your domain, and you're very pleased with your domain, and you don't want other people to do anything with that, that's what she likes with her in her letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can absolutely see how Harmony has a massive target on his back,
and
that a lot of beings in the Cosmere want to take a stab at.
So you have an avatar, and you plop it in Scadrial right after Harmony's ascension, because Harmony is going to be bad at it and not notice it immediately. Whereas if you wait, that gets a lot harder.
Sure.
But you can't put that avatar in before during the conflict of Ruin and Preservation, because those holders are going to know what's up. So
also you're probably not as concerned with Ruin and Preservation just doing their own thing.
It does seem like an event like the end of the conflict with Ruin and Preservation is something that shards or shards agents would be keeping an eye on, and not just the Irie, right? Surely you would do that. And if you're autonomy and you interfere in other planets and you have these avatars and I like my domains, what's up? I think you're watching Scadrial.
Yes, I don't see a need for autonomy to create an avatar just to I think autonomy can just watch from the spiritual realm.
Oh yeah. No. I think she's watching, and then once the ascension occurs, she's like, okay, I need some feet on the ground now to deal with that, right? So I don't think before Harmony's ascension. I think in the time where the world's being reborn, she also has this opportunity where society's weak as well. So society's weak, the vessel is not good with the power. Autonomy's had millennia of practicing with the power.
Yeah.
Make an avatar, use Trell, I guess, sure, why not? I guess. And then the goal is to defeat Harmony, I guess? Sure, I guess.
Defeat, destabilize, keep contained, although I can't
Just run
imagine that's a
interference.
long-term plan.
Keep distracted while my best bud Odium can deal with some other peeps, and Odium can help eventually. I don't know. This is like crazy town theory. I know.
Yeah. No, but I like the idea of Autonomy creating the avatar shortly after the ascension of Harmony.
That's the only thing that makes sense. And Harmony, he's just bad with the power initially. Like he needed the guidance of all of his metal minds to figure out where to put things. He could have figured it out eventually with the power, right?
Yeah.
Like that's totally possible. But at the beginning, would he notice a subtle thing like an avatar that's kind of weird? And maybe Autonomy's really good at like hiding that initially, and who knows what that means.
I mean, Harmony has a hard time detecting Hoid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
imagine another shard can hide small parts of itself better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Autonomy can just show up in the system and Harmony wouldn't know. No, that's not.
Well, I mean, he noticed eventually, but maybe it was too late. Once this being was being grown or something. I don't know how it works.
yeah.
Also worth considering that Harmony cannot detect the new metal
Yeah, right.
that
Yeah.
shows up.
That
And
could be a direct
so-
metal thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
But it does seem like Seizet's the new kid on the block, and he's being attacked by a extremely savvy opponent. And though he has power, he does not know how to use it very effectively. And he's very conflicted because those are, distinct forces that are, pulling on him in both ways.
Poor Says.
Poor Saints. God, this is gonna be so cool, late Cosmere. Like, there's so many crazy cool things when Shard conflict is the forefront of things. We could see a direct Shard of conflict on screen. That's more than just Vin's battle with Ruin, which was objectively very cool, but also not quite the same as Odium fighting Ambition across the three realms.
Are we doing like our crazy predictions portion of the episode now?
Well, we'll get to
we don't
Patji,
need
but
to.
I mean, Trell's probably the main thrust of Autonomy. Yep. The main thing, we know that Autonomy is definitely doing something.
Yeah.
And by definitely, I mean implication suggests it is Autonomy. And so,
Yeah.
So sure, why not, Grace?
Okay, so I actually have a prediction for kind of the future of Autonomy. I think these avatars are going to be a main part of sci-fi era.
Okay.
Okay.
And basically, my thought is that, okay, we have Trell on Scadrial now, and so Era 2, and I think we have a wob that Trell's also going to be part of Era 3. Like, dealing with that.
I mean,
And
I
then
can't imagine it just ending in Era 2. Like, we have one book, right?
And and then the Scadrians are kind of like, okay, wow, that was super dangerous. Like, our Harmony was nearly killed. And that is kind of the collective memory of it. And that carries into the future. And then they leave Scadrial and they start going out into the Cosmere. And slowly they realize, oh crap, this same being has been putting these beings on other planets and no one is worried. And
And they're like,
a lot of that Era 4 is just them being like, Autonomy's a threat, we know that, like no one else is taking her seriously and it's almost too late because she has some steam.
you know what Grace, this fits with my headcanon that I don't know if it's going to be in the Cosmere, but I want an alien invasion story where the aliens are people from other planets we know. And like, what if the Scadrians are attacking? Like, dude, guys, there's a thing, the autonomy. You gotta deal with it. And no one believes them. So it's like, well, I guess we'll just come in force and deal with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's awesome. My thoughts went to First of the Sun.
Yeah.
Where we have an avatar of autonomy.
Yup.
And we have space invaders.
Yup.
Who are coming down with investiture scanning technology.
Mm-hmm.
Very close to a perpendicularity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of coincidences.
Now, it should be clear that the ones above are not confirmed to be Scadrians. It is a popular theory, and I think Ian, if were he here, would protest. Like, you know, Rosharans could be in
here then.
Rosharans could be in space age, right? Like that many societies could be in the space age of Roshar.
Yeah, and we've talked about like Knights Radiant in space and things like that.
But the Scadrians will 100% be involved because it's going to be the fourth era of Mistborn.
Yeah. So I think it is more likely that they're Scadrians than not. But I will acknowledge that it's not completely confirmed. But it plays into exactly this idea, right? Autonomy was a danger to Harmony at some point, and so at some point in the not so distant future, the Scadrians are like, you know what? I was gonna say two things that needed to be blipped.
Yep. Thank you.
You know what? Screw this. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna find this son of a Kremling. I guess it wouldn't be Kremling. We're gonna find this rusty son of a bad alloy.
That's what they say on Scadrial. We need a new Mistborn book, Brandon. We don't remember how they swear. Help
Give
us, please.
More curses.
Please. We need help. The lost metal's very lost.
And we're gonna find those avatars and we're gonna do something about them. And I think it's a really nice interplay with space age stuff, with investiture scanning, and a confirmed avatar location.
I'm into this. I like it. That sounds really cool. I want these societies to intermingle and conflict, and the shards to conflict. I want all of these things, and this would be a good way to do it. And it's also possible, like, if the autonomy is like a hive mindy thing, you could like have like this. They could almost be like somewhat Borg-like. You know, you gotta take out the whole hive mind. We gotta eradicate them. They're a plague on the Cosmere, and we gotta destroy them, or something. I like it.
You know what would be even cooler?
What's
if
that?
Harmony is not on board with that.
I mean, that would be there. There's so many ways for these to appear, and for other societies to be like, you're like destroying a lot of stuff. That's not okay, right?
Yeah. And then especially if autonomy has created pantheons and have societies worshipping these different variations of her.
Yeah, I can't imagine autonomy is not influencing all the places that they go to and be like, yeah, screw those guys. An avatar of us was destroyed. We need to deal with that. Is Odium involved? Who knows? Can't even surmise to imagine what's like that, right?
We should go back on some more factual things we know, though.
Yes, Evgeni. Is this Patji transition time?
I think it's time to talk about Patji.
Okay. So, as we referred to before, there was a word of Brandon that Patji is a Shard of Adonalsium, which Brandon was very pleased about talking about at the time, wasn't he, Ben?
Oh, he was thrilled.
Yes. And so there's this very long Reddit thread where Brandon writes a lot, because Brandon likes typing, about how, short version, things are complicated. And so let's read together on some parts of these. If you want the full analysis of Ben and I going through it as this literally happened, that is a Shardcast episode, actually. And you can listen to that, us freaking out, and we'll talk about the whole thing. No Shard was in residence on First of the Sun during the events of that story. The investiture on that planet is residue, normal investiture from Adonalsium. Everything happening there could happen with or without a Shard present. Indeed, I would say that no Shard was ever in residence on First of the Sun. The being called Patji still exists and is a Shard of Adonalsium. Shards in the past have been interested in First of the Sun and have meddled in small ways there, like they have on a lot of Shard worlds. Okay.
I think the very first thing I'm going to say is the end of that section is not relevant in any meaningful way.
No.
Shards have meddled in small Shard world. Great.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell us much.
No, I agree. That's just a thing that they do.
Yeah.
It gets difficult to talk about what investiture comes from, and he talks to a lot about the shattering and how it matters and how it didn't matter, because the investiture was always there, so it's like, is this computer I'm using matter associated with Earth, a Big Bang, or such and such star? It's probably all three. And so when people ask, what shard is this investiture associated with, it gets complicated. Shards influence and tweak certain investiture, giving it a kind of spin or magnetism, but all investiture predates the shattering, and Cosmere, matter, energy, investiture are all one thing. Then he talks about what invested means. We generally mean the term invested to mean a shard has taken permanent residence in a location, a kind of base of operations, but at the same time, this is meaningless since distance has no meaning in the spiritual realm where most shards are. So imprisonment of a shard like ruin and odium is a crude expression, but the best we have. Autonomy never invested on First of the Sun, but even answering if they create an avatar without visiting is a difficult thing to explain, because even explaining how a shard travels when motion is irrelevant is difficult to manage. It's a subject that I intend to be up for debate, discussion, and argument by in-world philosophers and arcanists.
Excellent.
He talks about how
shorthand for us.
I'm talking, the Cosmere is complicated, and I intend to explore it in many books. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And he says, I didn't even really get into what avatars are, what Patji was, what happened to Patji the being, and how that relates to Patji the island. So that's what Patji was, Patji the being, and how it relates to Patji the island. So those could be three distinct things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in summing it up, investiture on the First of the Sun predates any shards fiddling with it. Shards have fiddled with it, but by the time of that story. And also that, as we mentioned, that Autonomy is the one doing that stuff. That making Brandon say, it's a Shard of Adonalsium.
There's that final line of, don't look any further than Autonomy.
Right. Yep.
The origins of Patji.
Short version, stuff's complicated in the Cosmere, and shards are really complicated because they're really powerful and important, and Brandon's gonna write many stories about it, and I can't wait to learn more.
An important point, I think, is the definition of what it means to be invested in the context of shards.
Yes.
I think that's going to change the way we think about, hey, where is odium invested, for example?
Yeah, right.
And things like that. And so thinking of that as, well, this is the shard's permanent residence, even though that also doesn't make complete sense, right? With the spiritual realm location nonsense.
Yeah.
Kind of. So if you say that a shard has taken residence on Taldain, for example, they can do things and affect things on, let's say, First of the Sun. But by definition, they haven't taken residence there as well. You can only be invested in one place at one time for this definition of invested.
Yeah.
Now, what Autonomy is doing with avatars may be a way to circumvent that to an extent.
I think so.
Yeah.
If your mind, or if fractions of your mind are in multiple places, in multiple planets, in multiple systems, whatever, at the same time, then maybe you can do a thing where neither one of those avatars is the entirety of the shard in the same way that, let's say, Harmony is. Or maybe Harmony is not a great example, but the way, I guess, none of the Scadrian shards work.
Let's say
the way endowment is.
Yeah. Got to do a simple one. I'm sure we'll find that endowment is not simple at all.
I mean, splinters, divine breaths, whatever.
I mean,
being a dragon's pretty
what's going on with Osprey. Yeah.
Gets complicated.
Anyway. But maybe what you can do is you can have these points of influence throughout the Cosmere, and at any point of time, any one of these avatars can have access to the entirety of the shard's power, but that means that none of the others have access to that at the same time. And so it's kind of this game of ball, right? Where yes, you have control over vast areas of the Cosmere, but only one area at a time.
Okay.
I somewhat agree. I see what you're saying. Like, I imagine
It's an
like you're
interesting
spreading
idea.
yourself thin with your investiture, and maybe you can like borrow some investiture from others. What does that mean? I mean, I guess if most shards are in the spiritual realm, it shouldn't matter. It's like you don't need to like transport the investiture, right? So I kind of see what you're saying there. But
Very quickly, you keep saying most shards are in the spiritual realm. It's most of the shard is in the spiritual realm.
Well, both.
Unless, I mean, all of the shards mostly in the spiritual realm, except for the dead ones that are in the cognitive. You know.
Well, I mean,
Unless you
Brandon
meant
says,
most shards.
Brandon Speds, no meaning on the spiritual realm where most shards are. So that I'm using the language that's here.
Okay.
Like,
that's not how I interpreted that sentence, but
that's what it says specifically.
Yeah.
As opposed to devotion and dominion, which is in the cognitive realm. I mean, yes, shards pierce all three realms, so like location even there is not an effective means of talking about these things that are so powerful that span all of these things. You're right. But I will take issue that, yes, my terminology, I'm mimicking what Brandon said here, good sir.
I just think anytime you start talking about shards moving around or doing things elsewhere, you automatically are leaving the spiritual realm behind, and you're saying, we're going to be talking about the vessel and the mind.
Yeah. It does seem like Autonomy is getting out of the restrictions of investing on a planet, because you don't get to, like, I don't want to get on a big can of worms, but I don't think these avatars can create an invested art, let's say. Right? You couldn't have an invested art like Allomancy or Surge Binding or
not something as powerful as Allomancy.
Or even something as Sand Mastery. Like, I don't think you just have enough investiture, because I think generally those invested arts, when you're taking a permanent residence, you're kind of permeating that planet with your stuff.
Yeah.
And that allows that to occur. And so I don't think that does that. But what you can do, and what we see in Era 2, is the avatar can create a metal and tell a person to do a thing with that metal. and
can
like
play
use
with what's already
hemalurgy in a
there.
specific way, right? And can maybe influence other magics that are already there in slight ways, right?
I'll say there's got to be some element of being able to do something with where they are because of the birds, the worms, and the magic birds.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
There's some element of unless they're already there.
There's a different WoB that we haven't really talked about, but it briefly touches on the difference between minor and major shard worlds in the Cosmere. And the short and heavily paraphrased version of Brandon's answer is that minor shard worlds. So one significant difference is just the scope of the magic that you can see. You're not going to see a Surge Binder on a minor shard world. You're not going to see a Mistborn on a minor shard world. And the other one is minor shard worlds are more about, at least in Brandon's head, more about the interaction between people and creatures and their environment and the planet and the flora and the fauna. So something like First of the Sun, where a lot of the magic is about the interaction between humans and birds and magical worms. Things like that. Threnody is weird. We don't talk about Threnody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's in line with this.
I love shards, guys. I
can't wait for more shard stuff.
really, really love thinking about shards. This is like so thoroughly captured my imagination on what that means and what that's like. I'm imagining autonomy could be viewed as some sort of virus and is just spreading and influencing things, and not like corrupting everything, but like meddling in a huge variety of things. Odium's more like, yo, I'm gonna wreck your stuff, and autonomy is much more subtle. We haven't really talked about autonomy and sand mastery, and I know that is we are late in this episode to talk about a thing, but like the overmastery giving you more power seems like you're exercising your autonomy and your willpower and things like that.
There's much about sand mastery that I don't like.
Well, yeah.
What does classification mean?
Yeah, well,
how does that affect things autonomously?
I'm just saying the way you access the power is in line with the shard intent, not the effects. The effects don't need to be related to that, Ben. Very important. The idea that autonomy wants people to have their willpower, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I have a question then, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If we agree that the way a shard is involved in the invested art that is commonly associated with them, allomancy with preservation, hemalurgy with ruin, and so on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The intent of the shard is tied to the initiation and or acquisition of the magic, right? Not the effect. We can all agree that the effects are completely independent.
Yes.
And part of that is because all shards have access to this near infinite power, like the power of creation.
Yes.
And so they have access to all the effects.
Yes.
And so therefore the invested arts. And so if we go with this premise that it is the initiation, and it may be more than just initiation, but I'm going to use that term for simplicity. If it's the initiation that's tied to the intent, then sand mastery initiation is weird.
Well, I do not agree that it is the initiation, and I know this is being very pedantic, but this principle of intent is a thing very close to my heart in particular.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I know. Because snapping doesn't have to do with preservation too much. It's more that the way you're accessing the power itself is, well, you are not utilizing your own strength for allomancy, and so you have to draw upon an external source so that you are preserved.
Okay.
And like,
Okay.
you're using surge binding because the way that power is accessed is through honor, oaths, and growth, let's say. Sure.
And through a bond. Okay.
And through a bond, right? So,
Okay. All right.
which is different from initiation. But
Okay. Fair.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Doesn't make sand mastery any less
No, it
weird in
doesn't.
that
No,
regard.
it doesn't. But yeah,
In fact, it almost makes it more weird because
Yes.
the way you gain access to investiture in Sand Mastery is by taking it from magical lichen.
Yeah.
well,
And you use your own water as a currency almost. Kind of similar to
Yeah.
how a light weaver might use Stormlight as a bargaining chip in soulcasting.
Yep.
But like, where is the autonomy in all of? Like, you are very dependent on little creatures in the sand.
It's all in the overmastery. I've always thought this. That it's before we knew Autonomy's name, I thought like if the shard could be called something like perseverance or something like that, where the way you get more power is by exercising your willpower and autonomy. That's where the autonomy connection is.
Okay.
Like you're sort of thinking of like, hey, why are we dealing with microflora? That's weird, but it's no less weird than I'm ingesting metals and doing that. Like, that doesn't matter, right? That's just how the interaction with the planet and the investiture and people's spiritual DNA, that's just how it panned out on that planet. And if you were on a different planet, that investiture might manifest a little differently. But the autonomy influence I always thought was in the overmastery, that you're training and you're using that power and specifically focusing on that and that sort of aspect, and if that makes sense.
I can see that, but at least from what we've seen in White Sand, and you can argue that it's not a very good example, the vast majority of how the magic manifests and how the magic is being used is through the sand ribbons. Overmastery is an edge case scenario.
But that's how you get much stronger at Sand Mastery. So like there's this aspect of growth in Sand Mastery where like you start at one level and you gain more levels by exercising more autonomy, more search binding, more honor, right? Something like that. Like you're gaining more access to more ribbons and you're exercising that autonomy that is like in the souls of Sandmasters.
Okay. I still think it's a little tenuous, but I
agree, but that's the line that I see, and that's the only way it makes sense in my brain.
It's about as tenuous as allomancy allows you to preserve yourself.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that Brandon confirmed my theory, and that's what it actually is. So he directly confirmed the thing that I said in 2011. So I still am feeling really good about that. So that's my path. Okay. So anyway, sorry for that fun diversion. But we had to talk about the autonomy influence on Sand Mastery, right? We've never delved into Sand Mastery specifically. And it is, and I agree, it is really weird.
It's worth bringing up that autonomy has influence over on Darkside as well. But given that we know like virtually nothing about Darkside,
there are sky colors.
Yes.
There we go. And Skathen exists and is weird. Neat.
Also, Elise.
That's it. We have summed up what we know about the magic on Darkside. That's it.
Cool.
Should
we talk about the dragon thing?
Oh
that
yes, Ian would always say that Autonomy is a dragon.
out of
Bavadin's
all
a
of
dragon.
yes, let's say out of all of the shards, the one that goes around changing form and presenting themselves as different things and doesn't have a specified gender.
Okay,
is
well,
most
when you
likely
put it
going to
like
be the one
that,
that's is most likely going to be a shape-shifting dragon before they became Autonomy. Obviously it's not confirmed, but yeah, there is solid arguments to be made that we know some of the vessels aren't human.
dragons are shapeshifters.
Shapeshifters.
I will accept that is completely reasonable.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna call that evidence.
I'm not
it's
gonna.
not evidence.
That is way more circumstantial than us thinking that Autonomy is Trell. But I'm just saying that is interesting, and I would not be surprised if that was the case.
It's a stronger argument than endowment being a dragon, just because
breath and the dragons breathe fire.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is so one of our tenuous connections.
Or Autonomy was a Lightweaver on Yolen and had personas like Shalon.
Easy. Hashtag nailed it with hemalurgy.
I guess on the topic of random wobs, as we make our way to the bottom of this document,
yes,
the Ghost Bloods have had interactions with Autonomy, which is mildly interesting, but nothing we can really talk about. They are a world-hopping organization, so it's not surprising that they've had encounters with at least an avatar of Autonomy.
I don't know how many there are, but probably enough that you'd encounter one eventually.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. Ghost Blood seem to like to meddle. Autonomy likes to meddle. Have some interaction at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's his face? Man, Moraes had an AVR and Patji.
Right.
Bam.
Right. Like,
sure.
We definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the timeline of that is, but yeah, you're right though. But totally natural that would be a thing.
Huh. I guess AVRs may have been a thing for a very long time. I guess, right?
Yeah, the latent investiture that's there before meddling occurred. How much the meddling changed what the island did, we don't know, right? And it doesn't need to be a lot. No. I mean, for all we know, Autonomy is gonna be messing with the Ghost Bloods. I find that hilarious. I would assume Autonomy has her fingers in
many pies.
Everything. You know where Autonomy's invested. Vax, easy. With ruin, preservation, and endowment together.
The four of them, yeah.
The four of them in harmony.
Test made a planet first.
But then Odium attacked, and
in the interest of moving things along. In the interest of moving things along.
Never.
Nishanilin asked a few years back whether honor and autonomy could be considered opposites. In the sense that autonomy, so honor is all about oaths. Autonomy, what if autonomy is about freeing from oaths?
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon says that you can definitely think about them that way. Those two are more likely to be opposite than some others.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Makes sense. It gives us a little bit of a context into Autonomy's intent.
Want to talk about Bavadin?
Not really.
Who is Bavadin? I don't even know.
Apparently, there is a Luthadel Guard member in the Final Empire named Bavadin, and to which this questioner asks, that sounds suspiciously like Bavadin, and Brandon's like, it does. Is there a connection there? Brandon, Raffo. That's it. Good talk, guys.
I don't care about that.
Yeah. That's a nothing.
That's a spy of Bavadin.
What is more interesting, I think, is
Trell.
A question from Harold, back from Arcanum Unbounded tour, asking, have we seen Bavadin's influence on other worlds until now, like Austria on Nalthis, or other religions which Sazed studied on Scadrial, for example? And Brandon says, yes, you have seen her influence on other worlds, on worlds other than Taldain. He wouldn't confirm Nalthis or Scadrial.
Yep. There's an interesting thing on the Dayside map that people think that's there's this red-haired badass woman on the Dayside map, and one time Brandon's like, yeah, Isaac made that without he just did that because it looked cool. But then there's another one where Brandon's like, oh, that's a very sharp guess that you thought that looked like Bavadin. So, but also Brandon says, oh, Bavadin looks what she feels like looking like, or what he feels looking like, depending upon the day. So, doesn't really matter. If there's so many personas, then cool.
Cool. I haven't read White Sands. This is the first time I've discovered that we have a Taldain map.
Oh, the map, the Dayside map is gorgeous.
I literally had no idea this existed.
Do you want to see it? It looks great.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Isn't it cool?
You are the worst.
I know. Why am I even on this?
So
podcast?
you thought that our very fun and exciting Eric and Evgeni discussion on Sand Mastery was just so thrilling, right?
Oh man, you should try editing a 2-hour podcast for a book you've never read.
More random bit of trivia. It is interesting that Sixth of the Dusk says or thinks the following about Patji.
Oh man.
Patji was a domineering, vengeful parent who sought the blood of all who landed on his shores.
Excellent.
I'm just gonna leave it at that because
when you have Patji the being, who knows how much of that is real or not? We'll never know. Yeah. Will we ever know? I don't know. Great.
And then less relevant, the perpendicularity on the island Patji's Eye is a cool emerald lake.
Mm-hmm.
Rainfall collects there. The river Dusk thinks is his tears. I thought it's interesting that there's a thematic parallel between the tears of Patji and the tears of Edgeley.
True. Okay, sure.
But probably nothing more than a thematic thing. The same way that this is a cool emerald lake and cultivation's perpendicularity on the Horneator's Peaks is also known as the Emerald Pools.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. We should definitely talk about Bayon a bit because spoilers for White Sand Volume 3 if you care. Probably you don't, but very last page, Bayon's a Sandmaster, and that's weird because we have never seen a pure Darksider Sandmaster, and he also gets a giant sky beam, which is
Fatum.
He is Fatum, yeah. He is way he's orders of magnitude more powerful than any other Sandmaster that we have seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on the same panel where this happens, we see one of the cloud faces, which we kind of accept to be Autonomy, watching, maybe doing things,
paying attention.
Paying attention. Yeah.
Maybe she interfered directly and gave him power at the time. Maybe he's not actually a Sandmaster, and that was just Autonomy tricking the sand into releasing investiture just to mess with us. Or maybe Bayon has access to some other power set that is not Sand Mastery, and you just get the investiture in the same way that you get the investiture anywhere on their side, which is from the sand.
The lichen.
Yeah.
That it absorbed the investiture, yeah.
So maybe he does not sand ribbons, but other things.
I mean, I think all those are possible. We truly have no idea.
Yeah.
And the main reason I bring it up or I put it in the document to be brought up, is because some people thought Bayon was going to become an avatar of Autonomy.
What?
Because Trell, whom we see as a human person being in White Sand, also appears as a Trell, the deity, on Scadrial. And so I've seen some people draw the parallel which I don't like, but I thought I should bring up.
Trell's weird.
We've seen Bayon in Stormlight as part of
Yeah,
the Shard.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. Also a theory that I should bring up from people. End of Oathbringer, when Odium says, "We killed you," when Dalinar opens the Honor's Perpendicularity, some people have thought that we there suggests that Odium had help in splintering Honor, and Autonomy is a prime candidate.
It is a prime candidate, for sure. I would not be surprised if there is some sort of avatar on Roshar.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be spicy.
That would be interesting.
I don't think other shards necessarily have avatars. I feel like there's a big cost to doing this. And it's a very specific thing that Autonomy's doing.
I mean, I think there may be other shards have avatars, but not quite as many. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll probably I don't know if I'm comfortable saying this is unique to Autonomy.
Yeah, true.
But I can readily agree to, hey, this is a rare thing, and Autonomy does it way more than anyone else.
Yeah,
we certainly never saw any evidence of it before. Really, the Oathbringer letter really made it really clear. Like, oh, this is more than just personas and like different things. This is like a magical thing. This is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you can say Bavadin has personas, but making separate beings of you and referring to yourself in the we and being on many different planets, that is a very different thing.
A bit.
Yeah.
Autonomy is cool. I guess we'll see lots when the Scadrians go to stamp out all of the avatars of Autonomy. Oh, and I guess we should wrap by saying Ian hates the word avatar because avatar should just be a manifestation of,
Yeah, I agree. It's weird to think of these things as avatars.
It's not a good word.
Traditional sense of avatar, yeah.
Like an avatar would be the way Odium appears in Oathbringer is an avatar of Odium, right? It's just a representation of him.
So.
And like with all shards, the appearance that they put on is not themselves. Like we've seen that multiple times.
It's an avatar,
Yeah, right. So just wanted to bring that up for Ian here. Well, holy crap, guys. Let's go do Who's That Cosmere Character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace.
Tien.
Talm.
Braze.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw.
Welcome to Who's That Cosmic Character, the game where you guys send in 5 clues to wtcc at 17shard.com and a character, and then we try and guess the character by me reading out the clues one by one. And yay! And if they get the character, they win, and if they don't, they suck. And
exercise your autonomy and do exactly what we say and send things to wtcc at 17shard.com.
Yes. And then also tell us how cool we are as well. It's nice to read those things.
Yes.
Right.
That's not how Autonomy works.
No, it doesn't.
Right. So, character number 1 was sent in by TFR. Just TFR.
Okay.
Tiffer, if you will. Clue 1.
Cool.
This character is in a position of power.
Autonomy. Bavadin.
No. It's not Autonomy.
Sadius.
It's not Sadius.
Lord Praxton.
It is Lord Praxton.
We're all Taldain.
Cut on! Get me my boombox, it's Lord Praxton! Yay!
You read that for like the one episode when I was actually thinking about Taldain stuff.
I thought I'd pick a nice Taldain one. Well done, Grace. Clue number 2, this character has a relationship that was looked down upon by his peers. Number 3 was this character's blue eyes. Number 4 was this character's dead. And number 5, this character is from Taldain.
Nice.
Good one.
Nice.
TFR.
Well, great. Now we're cruising through this. This episode's long, so great, good. We did it.
Right.
We did it.
Let's see if you guys can get this next one.
Evgeni's just in disbelief. That is the disbelief.
When Ben said TFR, the first thing I thought of was Isaac's reveal of the Tafar glyph, because you would write that as TFR in the Rosharan glyph system, and Tafar means doctor, and so I was gonna try to riff off something about how the doctor is sending us clues, and then Grace just terminated the round.
Wow, that's
Cut
really
that one right off.
I'm so glad that joke was cut off. That's really good and high quality. That's the quality content you expect.
Character
Shardcast.
number 2,
All right,
sent in by White Wolf 11.
all right. Guess
number
only
1.
Threnody things.
Good luck. This character has traveled to all the dominances in the Final Empire.
The Lord Ruler.
It is the Lord Ruler.
Okay, I call foul play.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know Era 1 very well, and he's the only character I could think of that I was like for sure would have traveled to all the dominances.
I have some issues with this. We do not know. There's nothing that specifically says this is merely an implication that they probably maybe went to
Most
every
likely.
dominance. But you don't know that. You don't
This
know
is
that.
true.
That is,
This was-
so that does not need to be valid. Just saying.
It was so. I see what you're saying. It's a bad clue. Grace got it anyway.
I take an issue with the fact that Grace has access to the WTCC account.
I swear I am not. They're unread. Jebus can confirm.
Yep.
Yeah, you can read an email and mark it as unread again.
I mean, to be fair, there's been no evidence of foul play on Grace previously ever. But
An excellent deception.
If you want, we can have Grace do one, right? And then I'll play. And then Grace, which one are you picking?
What?
Are you...
I don't have them pulled up. I didn't think I was going to have to do
no.
anything.
We gotta do that. We gotta do that. What were the other clues, Ben?
Oh yeah. Close the email.
Maybe
the
Grace,
second one was-
Grace, after talking about Taldain, has just become a god. She's become an avatar of a shard of being good at who's that Cosmere character, and
It's because Ian's not here today. I can finally get
the real answer.
Clue number
Grace has
2.
ascended to Ian.
Clue number 2, this character knows the secret of the Well Ascension. Number 3, this character is excessively gloomy. 4, this character dislikes Kelsier. And number 5, this character is from Terrace. And they specifically wrote, it's your boy, the Lord Ruler.
I would reorder these clues in a different manner.
Yeah.
They narrow down very quickly.
No, but like dislikes Kelsier, like that's a big list. He killed tons of people.
Yeah.
Like that's a good clue. But
Cool.
like knowing the secret of the Well of Ascension being clue 2 is like, all right, so we got Alendi. Well, not even Alendi. We have Rashek and Rashek. So
I'm mostly upset because I was also going to guess Lord of the Ruler because my mind was still in the this is somebody with authority.
I would just like to say that I would normally guess the Lord Ruler, but we don't have any specific evidence that they were at the Farmost Dominance or the Crescent Dominance or anything like that. We don't know these things. That does not need to be the case. They conquered many places, but did they specifically go to the Southern Islands? That we don't know. Just saying.
It's a fair point.
Because if they went to a specific dominance, I would definitely remember that fact. And I don't, so they didn't. So there.
Yeah,
Cool.
White Wolf 11. Now we know why you're not White Wolf number 1.
I like that Grace has just gotten both of these on number 1. I find this absolutely hilarious. And Grace has become a god. Welcome, Grace, to godhood.
Grace,
And Ian's your ruin to Ian's preservation, pushing against each other. And who's that Cosmere character?
Am I reading one now?
You're reading one because Ben
If you
needs
look
to
up, you can if you want
contribute
to.
and needs to not just automatically win. And you need to, or rather, you need to not automatically win. Blah, 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 blah.
Words.
Words.
Watch me get this on clue 1. Do it.
That would.
I will get up and just walk away and let you do the outro without me.
That's fine. Just leave your camera on so it doesn't interfere with the overlays. Thanks.
This one was sent in by Philomath.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Clue 1. This character is well respected.
Well, not Kelsier then.
I'm gonna go with the Ascendant Warrior, Vin. Boom.
Is not Vin.
Do you know what's really bad?
What?
I literally just read this one, and I can't remember who it is. Like, I was literally scrolled past it when I was going down the list, and I'm like, I'm going to try and go from the clues, because I cannot remember who the character was. I'm going to guess the Lord Ruler.
It's not the Lord Ruler.
It's actually an interesting clue because
Isn't it?
a lot of characters are not generally well respected. Like, they are well respected within certain areas,
I mean,
but they often have like strong pushback, right?
I'd still
So
say
if-
like
if I
Dalinar
were-
is well respected or someone.
Hmm.
Like that would fit.
You could say that, yeah, but you could also make the argument the other way, right? So I'm gonna guess Navani.
It is not Navani. Clue 2. This character is kind to unexpected people.
I'm going to guess Dalinar.
It is not Dalinar.
Serini.
It is not Serini.
Hoid.
It's not Toyd.
No one
Clue
respects
3.
Hoyd.
It's true.
This character
Oh,
is
sure.
clever.
Yasna?
It is not Yasna.
Okay. Doesn't really work with clue 2. But
Clue 2 was they are kind to strangers,
To
unexpected.
unexpected people,
to unexpected people.
whatever that means. Rayoden.
It is not Raoden.
How many Elantris characters can I guess today?
Kenton isn't well respected.
Eventually he is.
Eventually, I'm gonna guess Kenton.
It is not Kenton. Clue 4. This character experienced a crisis of faith.
Says
So I know who
that.
they want me to guess. Yeah.
It's not Sazed.
Oh, rip us.
So just me.
are,
Okay.
are all three of us wrong?
No, because I knew who they wanted me to guess, but I'm not going to guess them because also you guys guessed.
Yeah.
You could guess.
Man,
Yeah.
Dalinar really fits these clues. I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
Would you describe Dalinar as clever?
Yeah, in a military sense.
There's a lot of
mean-
words that I would say that I could associate with Dalinar, but top 3 would not be clever.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay.
There is an argument to be made for like tactically and strategically clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What was
a
the
it's
clue for
a
again? Oh, Crisis of Faith.
crisis of faith, yeah.
Crisis of faith.
Who has a crisis of
Um,
faith?
Light Song does.
Oh, Light Song. Well, but is he well respected? No, he is pretty well respected.
I'm going to guess Light Song.
It is Light Song.
Hey! Hey!
And the 5th clue was that this character was once human.
Oh,
Those are some good clues. Those are.
did
well
you remember
done,
who that was, Ben?
person.
Is that cheating?
I could not. I did not remember. I'm even now. I'm like, was it Light Song? So yeah, don't worry about it.
I
I think that this is Evgeni, I'm with you. I think this is some high-level strategery designed for them to give each other points. Is all planned. Hashtag free Shardcast. Free Shardcast.
Without you saying lights on.
If you had not said lights on, my head was nowhere near Nalthis. So, like, I was back and forth between Roshar and Scadrial, and I was getting nowhere. So,
Evgeni is very displeased with how this who's that Cosmere character won.
She said he'd get up and leave, and he hasn't. So, just fine.
Well, you didn't get this in the first try.
Okay.
Also, technically, I guessed right, so
this is why Ian is a stone face and doesn't blab during other people's guesses.
I mean, I didn't expect anyone to actually listen to me.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, that was a very interesting Who's That Cosmere character. We hope you enjoyed this very interesting look into a very interesting shard. Hopefully all the White Sand stuff did not bore you to tears, but Autonomy is going to be important, guys. It's going to be real cool, and I'm excited. I'm real excited, and you should be too. So follow us on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can leave us a review on iTunes. You can support us on Patreon. And we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This is the last time I'm gonna be in this apartment on what we're recording.
Aww.
So you'll
Bye,
get to see
Eric's
me in a
apartment.
different background where I'll actually have overhead lights. I'm really excited. Call.
Bye, Eric's house.
Bye. Well, actually, it's by Eric's apartment. And hello
Yeah.
to Eric's house. Call.
I'll set the scene. We were having
With the first germ. Hey, you know, Hoyd's arch nemesis is the first germ, and they were the first ones on Ashen. It makes sense.
The bearer of the first germ.
Yeah, the bearer of the first germ. That's what the singers called the humans, actually.
No, that's what they call the world hoppers that showed up in the Way of Kings.
Well, I mean, yeah.